Greetings, fellow Earthlings. My name is Zach.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is
High Level Hairesy.
Question everything. Without the question, how can you have the answer? Wisdom comes from within. This is High Level Hairesy.
Most of us were taught that medicine is about fixing what's broken. You're sick, you go to the doctor. They find the problem, prescribe the solution, and you move on. That story feels comforting until it doesn't work. Because at some point, a lot of people hit a wall. The scans don't change, the numbers don't move, the body just doesn't respond the way that it's supposed to. And that's when a quieter question starts to surface. Not what drug do I need, but what does my body actually need? Not how do we kill the disease, but why did it take root in the first place? In this episode, we're not here to trash Western medicine. It saves lives, and we're grateful for it. But we are here to talk about its blind spots.
We're talking about treating symptoms versus supporting systems, about fighting the body versus partnering with it, and about what can happen when someone stops being a passive patient and starts becoming an active participant in their own healing. This is a conversation about medicine, but more than that, it's a conversation about how we understand the human body and who gets to decide what real healing looks like. Across 2,400 years, different cultures, and wildly different personalities, the same idea keeps resurfacing. Healing doesn't come from the doctor, it comes through the body when the system is supported instead of suppressed. Join us today as we ask the question, who really heals you? Western medicine, holistic healing, and the body's intelligence. But before we get started, let's go ahead and do our breath work. We'll take a nice little breath together to get us on the same page, get on the same wavelength. I'll count you down starting at 1. 1 will be your inhale. We'll go through 2, 3, 4, and then we'll exhale. If you have a spot, you're in a spot that you could vocally exhale and sigh it out, sounding like, then go ahead and sigh it out. So here we go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. That feels so good.
Yes.
All right, so today we are going to talk about some of the differences between Western or allopathic medicine and holistic practices, branching into alternative therapies, Eastern medicine.
All right, so before we get into it, just a small disclaimer. We are not doctors. We are simply just talking about our viewpoints, what findings that we've found in our research and study over the years, and just even our own personal experiences as well, and kind of how all these things correlate, and just the differences between different medical systems. So we're not bashing anything, and we're actually trying to show how we should integrate multiple different systems instead of just one thing or the other. So just quick disclaimer. So to start off, most of us didn't choose Western medicine. We inherited it. Kind of like, a lot of people's religion is based off of where you're born. It's geographical. So we're born in the Western world, so we kind of inherited Western medicine or allopathic medicine. When you're sick or scared, you're not asking a bunch of questions or philosophical questions. All you really care about is, who can help me right now? I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel good. Who can help me right now?
Right. And that being said, we do want to acknowledge gratitude for emergency medicine, surgeries, diagnostics. And we're just asking the question, what happens when the system that saves lives struggles to heal them long term, or the protocol fails? So before we get into the difference between Western and holistic medicine, we're going to talk about real bodies. And we want to introduce our special guest today, JJ, my bonus mom, that she's coming to us live from Kentucky, Lake Cumberland, Kentucky. And the reason she's here today is to share her personal story / testimony of her journey with cancer. And I'm going to let you know that most likely going forward, she will be referring to the word cancer as C, because she prefers not to call it that. So if you hear her say C, that is cancer. JJ was diagnosed with ovarian cancer that had metastasized to her abdominal cavity back in April of 2024, just 3 months after my dad, her husband, had passed. And she was in the middle of trying to figure out her new dimension in life, how to move about, and had started, she'll get into it a little more for you, but had started working out and noticing some pain. And I encouraged her, like, don't mess around with this. Just go check it out. Like, just see what it's about, because maybe there's something there that you don't want to ignore. And, you know, within her experiences, she went through the traditional protocol, and that's where I'll leave it so that JJ can kind of share her story with you. JJ?
Well, thank you very much. And I'm not a very good speaker, but hey, thank
That's
you.
all right. We're just
Zach
having
and
a
Jessica.
conversation.
I know, and I love it. I love your podcast. I really do.
Thank you.
And weather permitted me to come up here finally. So, yes, I was having a hard time, and started working out and had a pain and went to the doctor and said it's not going away. And it was on, across from my belly button. And I asked her, because she really didn't think it was exercise and working out either. I asked her if she could order me a CT scan, and I did. She did, and I did. All this happened within a week. I went to her on Monday, got the CT scan on Wednesday, got the results, and a call to Lexington Hospital, this cancer hospital. And Monday had an appointment. So that's how fast it was. And then when I went up there, the doctor told me about that and the C and everything. And that
Your
was
diagnosis, they said, yeah, you
diagnosis.
do indeed have something going on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Fact. And so that started my journey. And that's a scary one. Anybody that's ever done it or knows somebody that's been through it, it's scary. And you don't know what to do. And yes, the first thing to do is to cling to your doctor. And what your doctor says is gold. And it's not, but that was the only thing that I clung to. And so that led to chemotherapy. And he suggested 3 of those, and then surgery, and then 3 more. I ended up doing 3, and he says, well, that didn't do what it was supposed to do, which it did not. And so he recommended 3 more. But in that interim, they were like 6 weeks apart. And to break it down, we had 2 music concerts to go to. And if I would have kept up with my schedule, I wouldn't have made it to either one, because the first 3 treatments I thought I was going to go through them. I'm healthy. I am a very healthy person. I thought I was going to make it through with flying colors.
Yeah.
And it slapped me like you don't know what.
And when she says healthy, let me tell you, this woman, do you mind if I say your age?
No.
Okay. She's about to be 70. You would never guess it. And she splits firewood. She totes water to all her dogs, and she is very active, a large property. She gardens. She gets up in the morning, hits the ground running, and really doesn't rest too much till the end of the day. And I'm telling you, like, unloading dump trucks full of firewood. Like, not just, she's not just healthy. Like,
She's small but mighty.
She's a badass.
And she's also she's very small woman as well. She's very much like
petite.
Dynamite comes in small packages.
That's true. Yep,
That's what I've always said.
Exactly.
So you thought, you were like, I'm going to blast through this, no problems. I usually heal quickly if I even get sick.
Even if I get sick. I've never went to the doctors, don't do any of the shots. I've always lived fairly healthy. My life has been, it's been not that spiritual, but I always believed in God because I did grow up in the church, and I got away from it, but God was always there because I should have been dead by 30, the way I live my life. But I've always gravitated to that side of healthier living and older, back into the 1800s, and preserving food and everything. But I've always ate fairly healthy. Forgot where I was going with that.
Just more that you've always been kind of a homesteader lifestyle, that you were pretty self-sufficient and on the more natural side of life.
Most definitely.
So you thought you'd get through this with flying colors. And
I did not. And
so tell us a little bit about what you experienced from even just the first three. I mean, I remember your first. You came to stay.
I stayed with you
here. Yes, with us, just in case.
Yes.
And because she lives between 5 and 6 hours from us, and we just wanted to make sure she was going to be okay. And I was worried. You were in bed. You were fairly bedridden that first few days afterwards, and just sick. So go ahead and continue.
It's
your
not
story.
a picnic. You're right. The side effects are nasty. The night after you get your infusions, you're sick. You're up every 10 minutes, throwing up every 10 minutes. You feel like crap. The next 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days, you just are fatigued, and you don't feel like doing anything. You don't like eating. You don't do anything. So the first 3, like, you just start to get to feeling better, and then you go for another one. So I did the 3, and then we split and went 6 weeks without. And during the 6 weeks, before the 6 weeks, the doctor agreed to push it out so I could go to the music concerts. Thank God. I asked him. I ran across ivermectin, and I asked him what he thought, because I tell my doctor everything. He knows I smoke, weed. He knows I was doing THC, the RSO oil. He knows I was doing CBD, CBG, which I started, which is real good fighting cancer inside. And it's not it's not active with, you don't feel anything with that or the CBD.
Psychoactive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that word. So I asked him what he thought about it. He said he'd rather I didn't while I was going through chemo. Well, those 6 weeks, I get the bright idea, well, I'm not going through chemo. I'll start that. So I started it, a very low dose. It was 2 milligrams, 2 grams, whatever. It wasn't much.
You're talking the ivermectin?
About the ivermectin.
Okay.
I started that. I didn't tell my doctor, which I had a hard time with that. I can't lie. And so I did that. And guess what? The next 3 treatments, I had no side effects at all. None whatsoever. And that, really, like, okay.
After you took the ivermectin, you noticed that?
Yes, sir.
So you had, I remember, your 4th treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So it was your 4th treatment. You had started the ivermectin. Your 4th treatment is, and after the fact, you had energy. You didn't feel nauseous. And you were like, well, I don't know for sure if it's the ivermectin. Maybe it's because I had longer in between. And then you continued your 5th and 6th.
Yeah.
And still felt so much better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And for me, ivermectin worked with the side effects. Okay. It worked with the side effects. Now I'm not saying that will work for everybody. And after the 6th one, I confessed to my doctor and told him, I said, well, because he always asked me, at every time visit, how am I feeling? And I said, well, I'm feeling great. I said, but I have a confession. And I told him, remember when I asked you? He goes, yeah. I said, well, I started doing it.
And
Ivermectin.
she didn't just willy-nilly, we did a lot of research. And with the information that's out there these days, you can find medical journals, you can find doctor statements, and she had found many things that said that ivermectin, in conjunction with traditional protocols for cancer treatment, could, they were actually considering integrating them together. So you had done also a lot of inward contemplating and asking, is this right for me? And felt that it was.
Yes, I did. Yes.
So, okay, after your 6th treatment, which is what your doc had said, we're going to put off surgery because it hasn't shrunken enough. Let's do 3 more. You did the 3 more. You're at 6 treatments.
Correct.
What did the scans show?
Still did not shrink anything. And I knew that the doctor wanted it to shrink to do surgery because the metastasis was so big. And I was feeling bad. My gut's telling me, no, do not open up me with the C. Because I don't care how advanced medicine is. It'll wreak havoc through your body.
And for those of anybody who doesn't know, with chemotherapy and radiation and stuff, it kills all of the cells. It's not, that's why people get sick, is because it's not just killing the bad cells, it's killing all your good ones
cells.
too. And that's why people lose hair. That's why they have all the issues that they have, is that it's killing everything.
Right.
Weight loss. You lost 20 pounds from your 108-pound frame.
Well, I was at 110 or 11 by then. And so but I still lost 21 pounds. Yes. And I did lose all my hair after the first treatment. Right before I got my second.
I shaved your head.
I do remember that. Yes. But losing it, I didn't cry like a lot of people do. I made fun of my hairdos and my non-hair because I had hair past my butt. And
we're marked explicit, so you can say.
You're allowed to say.
You're allowed to say
whatever you want.
Anyway, it was past my butt. It was down to my knees. But my sweetie pie, her dad, Jessica's dad, gave me a haircut a few days before he went into ICU and cut about 12 inches or so off of it. So it was just to pass about my butt. And so I've always had long hair. So I know that was traumatic for me. But yes, I lost all my hair. Yes, I was fatigued terribly. It was just awful. I had no appetite. I did lose the 21 pounds. Oh, what else? You don't feel like eating. I made myself do green smoothies for protein and vitamins. I made myself do firewood. I made myself work through this. I suggest highly that people go to work or do some kind of exercise and do whatever when they're going through chemo, no matter how shitty they feel, because that's very important in healing. And the other one is to how your demeanor is, how you feel, how you act. Do not let it bring you down. Choose your words carefully, how you are explaining what you are going through. Don't claim that you've got C, don't claim it.
Right.
So
you can acknowledge, but then you believe that you're healed. And that goes in. I mean, there's been several testimonials I've heard from my personal clients. And I believe even your doctor said attitude is 90% of it.
That is correct.
Your attitude, if you have a positive attitude, because I mean, just like we've talked about the water in previous episodes,
yes,
how
exactly
how positive messages create positive, beautiful patterns, and negative messages spoken to water create negative patterns or chaotic. The cells are the same way.
They are.
So you you were kind of feeling like a passive recipient instead of a participant in your, you were already doing healthy things because you had already done those in your life. But then you told the doctor, I'm not doing any more chemo. I want to do my own regimen of more natural means and alternative therapies before we do anything else. Because if we're going to do surgery, I want to prepare my body. I want it to be like the best terrain possible for me to move forward with anything else.
Agreed. Because you and I researched. We did a lot of research. We went through a lot of books. I have a bunch of books that, and Diana Wright comes to mind foremost.
Do you remember the name of that book?
Yes, it was Turning the Months into Years. And she's got another one, Rebuilding the Body After Chemo, Radiation, and Surgery, because she's done it all.
Right.
And I was ready to go into more natural things. So I asked my doctor and I asked his honest opinion, if it was okay and it would not be detrimental to my life if I pushed surgery out 2 months while I tried some homeopathic and naturopathic and oxygen therapy, stuff. And
well, that's what I was going to mention. So as soon as you found out that you had
yeah,
you immediately stopped drinking alcohol.
Oh, I forgot to mention that.
And you can go through a list of what you cut out.
Okay.
But I do want to also bring up that the scans showed that you had the beginning stages of cirrhosis
Yes.
of the liver.
Yes.
You immediately quit, and later scans showed that from you stopping alcohol and then going in on your detox pathways, which you can go a little bit about, Adam, and your herbalist, but that your scan showed that the cirrhosis went away.
Right.
Because the liver does heal itself if given the proper environment.
Right.
So,
right.
Okay, so let's talk about what you cut out, and just as it comes to mind, the things that you started incorporating due to Diana Wright's book and the information from that, and then further research.
Other research, yes, because I did. The alcohol was the biggest thing. I was always a beer drinker. I love my beer. Beer's good. I've drank 52 years, and I like beer. But that's what my sweetie pie was happening to him. He did not want a transplant. So I knew that scared me. So when he said that about first times of cirrhosis, I immediately quit. Now, days before I went in, I had quit drinking hard alcohol because I was having heart palpitations, and I was, my heart was racing. It was like 90 something pulse, and it was not good. And my PCP that I went to.
Not the drug. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Primary care physician.
Thank you for that insert. She knows I do not, our, naturopathic don't visit doctors, and I didn't want to do anything if it wasn't natural. I said, I'll just research, find what I need to do to get my palpitations and my blood pressure down. And I did through beets and hibiscus, and did that. But I just did not, I just wanted to quit that because I was having a hard time. I was going through a lot. And so I quit the hard alcohol, but the day, which was April 8th, that I got diagnosed, then I quit drinking beer as well. But I thought, well, I can drink NA beer, and be okay. So everything I quit wasn't all at the same time. You can't do that all at the same time. So I drank NA beer for maybe another couple months, and until something clicked, and it's like, duh, dummy. It's got sugar. Sugar is the main food that C loves. So I would suggest to anybody that has the C to stop refined sugars.
Yeah.
Stop eating your candy and all the bought sugary
white processed sugar.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Stop that. Stop your cola drinks, your Sprite drinks. Stop your pop drinks. Just stop one thing. Just stop one thing and you'll, that'll be great. Anyway, so I did stop drinking alcohol. I stopped my refined sugar. I never ate out a lot anyway, but I did stop eating out as much as possible. Then I started seeing my wellness person, my herbalist, Adam, and he did test on me, the probing test and stuff, and found out that I had a slight allergen to dairy. And so I said, okay, so does that mean cut down on my dairy? He went, no. He says, cut it out. And I went, are you kidding me? I'm like, okay, I'm good. God, please, what else do I have to quit? I have to quit all this stuff I love. So I had to cut out dairy. And I am very much a dairy person. Cheese,
We like
sour
the
cream,
cheese.
yogurt. Yes. Anyway, we love cheese. Anyhow, so I stopped that. That hasn't been bad. I switched to plant-based everything or nut-based. That's not bad.
That's what I was going to. So you transitioned to a more plant-based approach, which there's a lot of research out there that shows plant-based diets can heal numerous different diseases in the body. And so you switched to that.
I did.
And
even though that still has a lot of different not additives, but non-evasive additives.
Right.
It's better than the other alternative, I guess. So I quit that, got on plant-based, and all this has been transforming through, like, this April will be 2 years since I got diagnosed. So all this has been in that working. But I after 6 months, probably after my last chemotherapy infusion, and decided not to do the surgery, because I did not want to do surgery, is when I got hot and heavy on my diet and stuff. And then I did not eat meat, no red meat, no pork. And if I do, it's only like a burger. And if it's a burger, it's only from grass-fed, organic, wild-caught stuff. I do a lot of fish, a lot of salmon. So I've quit the meat. Oh, I quit gluten. Gluten has sugar in it too, a lot. Gluten.
A lot of these things are things that cause inflammation in the body, and that's what you don't want when you're trying to combat cancer.
That's exactly correct.
And actually causes a lot of
disease. A lot.
And okay, so then you were taking care of your detox pathways, and you were taking herbs that begin to help detox the body, but also get those. You don't want to just go in on detoxing your body without first prepping those pathways.
You have to open the pathways. And when I went to my wellness herbalist, I thought I was healthy. I was not. Most of my pathways were blocked. So no matter how hard I detox, it didn't go anywhere. So he got all those most and all opened now. And so now we're on a detox program to finish that. I'll probably continue that because it's not bad to detox your body all the time, especially with all the chemicals in the air, all the ingredient. If you don't eat organic, and even organic has the chemicals absorbed into them. And almost anything you do, it's hard to get away from, but the more you do it, the more you can,
more your body is capable of combating
a little bit. Yes.
And so, as well as your diet approach, like Diana Wright's book talked about high dose IV vitamin C, and vitamin C is one molecule off from sugar.
Correct.
So that kind of essentially tricks the cancer cells into attacking that, thinking it's like sugar. And then
high doses is not good for C. And it has to be high doses.
Intravenously,
not orally. And and that is not paid for by health insurance. So yeah, it's costly. Diana Wright, a lot of things she suggested is expensive to do, but it has to be done like every day. Now I had like 3 IVs that were 50 grams each one. And I don't know. I mean, it seemed to help because when I did do them along with some vibration therapy and 5 HBOTs, which is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, I did the 5 of those, 5 or 10 of those, and my numbers on my tumor and my metastasis went down.
Right. So after 3 months, and we're talking 90 days that
Yes.
she did these protocols,
Yes.
the high dose vitamin C, the hyperbaric chamber, oxygen therapy, and diet. She went in and her numbers went from the 400s, your cancer marker
My
numbers,
CA-125, which is a marker to tell you how much cancer's in your body. Yes.
went from the 400s to 111.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
And
My doctor was pleased as hell.
yeah,
And he said, whatever you're doing, keep it up. And he agreed back, after my 6th treatment, he agreed to push my surgery out while I did my homeopathic and herbal and natural. And he's pleased. And I love my oncologist in Lexington. I'll just have to give a shout out to my Dr. Yulin because he sticks with me, because I have heard a few that say that they are going to try the alternative along with or beside the allopathic, and their doctors say, then I don't want to treat you. I don't want you. But he's sticking with me. He's loving my outcome. He says 1 in 5 people can live with C, because I keep asking him that. It's like, can I live a normal life with this?
I mean, you have already said, so once you started doing all these things, you've said like you felt better. You feel better now than you have in 10 years.
Yes, I do. I say that constantly because it's the truth. It is the truth. With everything that I have quit putting into my body, I feel so much better. I have more energy. I'm happier. I forget I have C, which is a good thing. I'm not concentrating on that now. I'm concentrating on fixing my body so it can do what it is supposed to do.
Which is heal itself when it's given the proper environment.
Yes.
So
I'm getting excited just talking about it again.
And so at the present, so the last scan showed he's basically doing scans every 3 months.
Yes.
And the last one showed he said you were stable, but it still showed a small decrease. So it is continuing to go down. We would love for it to shrink immediately, but the case is usually tumors have been growing for like 7 years.
A long time.
Before they actually show up. And your tumor was
7 centimeters or something like that. It was huge.
Very
large.
Not
huge, but huge to me.
Pretty large.
It was.
And so it is continuing to go down.
Yes.
He said she is stable, that she could live like this, and actually now she was ready. She had gotten the mindset to go ahead and have surgery.
Yes.
And then her oncologist said, why don't you just hold off? And like, I think he's interested to see where this goes as well.
I do too. I do too.
Some doctors, I feel like, are like him. Sounds like they're like interested, like in seeing, okay, almost like experimental type. Like, okay, let's see how this goes, and then maybe they can use that with their future patients.
I am hoping, yeah, I know, because it's like that's why I told him. I said maybe you can incorporate ivermectin on a low dose to help with side effects. It might not help everybody, but it did with me. You saw, and he has said. Did I just say this already? You can delete it if you want. That 1 in 5 persons can live with C. He goes, because you're a living example that it does, that you can. I don't want to, but I am.
You are. I mean, you're living a fully functioning normal life while it is still decreasing in size.
Decreasing. I go get a CT scan every 3 months, and every time it decreases a little. That is a win-win. That's great. So that's what he said. If I keep he said I didn't have to do surgery because it's been long enough and it hasn't expanded or spread. And I said, so down the road, if it still does this, how often we'll have to do it? He goes, well, maybe we could push it out to like every 6 months to do a CT scan. And so I'm just looking forward to that. So yeah, it's great.
And just something I meant to say earlier too about she mentioned some of the other things that she was doing, some of the natural things that she was using outside of this treatment, the THC and CBD and CBG and all that kind of stuff. She mentioned RSO oil. Just for those of you who don't know what that is, that's Rick Simpson oil. That is a highly, highly concentrated oil coming from the cannabis plant. It is specifically only THC. So it is essentially a distillate, but it is highly concentrated. Rick Simpson he was I think an engineer from Canada originally. He developed it for himself to get rid of his own cancer, which he did.
Yes.
And he has thousands of documented cases of people getting rid of their cancer and various other diseases or issues. So just so people know what that is, that was developed for cancer patients. And she took that, and I have to say, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like maybe some of that helped.
I do.
I'm sure.
I do.
And especially knowing that there are documented cases where people have gotten rid of it. Basically, what THC does is it wraps itself around all, just kind of like radiation and chemotherapy, that kills all the cells. THC gets rid of the bad cells, kills the bad cells or the cancer cells, and rejuvenates the good cells. So it's actually pretty awesome. But just a side note,
also helps with pain.
No, that was
good. And
it's
mindset.
So it helps with the actual thing, the disease itself, but it also at the same time helps with side effects. So
yes, it does.
Pain,
it does and did.
Hunger, not wanting to eat, or having trouble sleeping, or pain, or any number of those things.
Sleep gets interrupted with chemo. Yeah.
So
and addiction.
Yes.
My alcohol.
Yes.
I wasn't addicted to alcohol.
No, but
I'm
hard
sure
to
my
stop.
body was.
It's hard to stop that after years of doing it.
It very much is. So RSO took its place for a minute. No. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Appreciate it.
All right. So, Jessica, you've navigated the medical system in your own way. What stood out to you?
Well, let's see. Several things. Try to condense it. First, since we were talking about JJ's cancer experience, my mom went through breast cancer, I believe it's 6 years ago now. And she had the traditional approach. She went through chemo and radiation and lost her hair and, had some fatigue. She did continue working, like you mentioned earlier. It helped give her some normalcy.
Good.
One of the things I noticed through that, whereas your doctor listened to you and was okay with an integrative approach, combining different things, different aspects.
He did.
I went to a few of my mom's doctor appointments with her oncologist, and I had asked about CBD and knowing that also contributed to healing when it comes to cancer. And he kind of shut me down and said he didn't know anything about that, so he couldn't speak on it. And I understood where he was coming from, but I was just curious as to why, when there's a lot of information out there, that it couldn't be just looked at so that you could maybe speak on it a little bit. So that aside, my own personal experiences is, kind of being listened to versus dismissed. And just to give a little personal story, I had a rash that that popped up. I had never experienced skin issues, didn't just get rashes, never dealt with eczema. And I was like, what is going on? And it happened to be popping up in all of my lymph node areas. And I was like, well, that's strange. And I felt like there was probably something, they had actually, we live in a field and they had just sprayed. So I thought maybe it had something to do with that. And I remember like it just kind of continued, and it would pop up in a spot and then go away and then pop up. Like I would use my own salve that I had made. I call it High Level Healing Salve. And it just has a lot of good stuff: organic bee pollen, beeswax, coconut oil, avocado oil, jojoba oil, and then some tea tree, lavender. And these are all certified organic for therapy, not just stuff you buy at Walmart. So I had made this, then I've started making it years ago and realized that it kind of helped heal a lot of different skin things like bug bites, poison ivy, rashes, burns. And so I started slathering that on, and it would go away, and then it would pop up in another area. So I happened to actually have a dermatology appointment just to get an overall body check. I said, hey, can you take a look at this? Waited for an hour, by the way, to see the doc. And then he was pretty abrupt with me and immediately like looked at it for 2 seconds and said it's eczema. And it wasn't like flaky. It wasn't itchy. It wasn't,
Scratchy or
scratch
whatever.
it. Yeah. And your typical eczema. And I have never had eczema. I'd never dealt with that. And I'm sure that it can just crop up, later on in life. But I mean, why? And so he immediately said I have to take steroids for it, and it wouldn't go away unless I took steroids. And I said, well, I've actually been using a salve that I make with essential oils. And he immediately said, well, you need to quit doing that. Then I said, well, they're certified organic. And he said they can still cause issues. And so
he did.
I was like, oh, okay. And then before he left, like I had something else I wanted him to check. And like, he kind of rolled his eyes, like kind of looked exasperated. I was like, well, if you don't have time, don't worry. He's like, no, it's fine. And then, came back in and he threw me the script basically, and $100 for the specialist later. I was like, well, I'm going to go see my nurse practitioner. Went to her like a week later because it was still kind of popping up. And she was at least sympathetic. And she said to me, well, there's so many reasons that this could be happening. We can't really narrow down where it's coming from, but we can make it go away. And which lends to the more just trying to suppress the symptoms, not really finding the root cause. And I was not interested in simply suppressing the symptoms. I wanted to know why my body was doing this. My gut and intuition was telling me that I just needed to detox something out of my body, which is why it's like the lymph areas were flaring up. So she told me steroids, that's what it's going to be. And she said that's what would make it go away. And then it could pop up again. And that's what I would have to do. And I did research on that. And when you utilize steroids, the skin becomes like reliant on that to stay clear. And then that can thin the skin and all these different things. And I was like, no, I'm not going to start that journey. So I just continued to use my homemade stuff that Dr. Derm told me not to use. And it went away. Oh, aside from that, I started detoxing. I did a 3-day fast, and then I did some juicing with a lot of greens and took some herbal supplements to help me detox. So I fasted first to kind of start helping my pathways to somewhat clear before I went in on taking herbs to detox. But then because even though it went away, I was still very curious as to why something like this would happen out of nowhere. So through a couple different synchronicities at work and 2 different people recommending an Ayurvedic practitioner, I made an appointment with him, and we'll go into Ayurveda a little bit later and what that entails. But he sat down with me for an hour and a half consultation and asked me numerous questions about what was going on. And in the end, we came to the conclusion that I had been going through a lot of stressful things. And 2024 was the year my dad passed at the very end of 2023. Then JJ found out her diagnosis, and I was walking with her on that journey. We had to sue a plumber from our shop build out.
Man, that was fun.
We had a lot of
Negativity.
familial
stress.
things, just a
Stressful.
lot
Yeah.
of
Stress from all directions.
just stress from every aspect. And he said that I had essentially, due to those things, excess heat in the body, and it was causing reactions, and then kind of recommended a few things. And I have not had that since. And
Heat being inflammation. Is that okay?
mhm,
Yeah.
due to stress.
Right.
And stress is like a
The
massive
number
part.
one
Yeah.
disease.
Yes. Which trickles down into
Various
mhm.
things.
So, I said all that to say nobody really was interested in why it was happening. It was just, let's just treat it and move on.
Except the Ayurvedic.
Right. Right. Which is, considered alternative.
Yes.
So even without a cancer diagnosis, the pattern was similar. Treat the part, miss the person.
Mhm.
And I have quite a few other stories, but we won't. This isn't about me. So, Zach, let's talk about the father of medicine, Hippocrates, and some of medicine's roots.
All right. So Hippocrates, most of you would probably recognize that from the Hippocratic Oath. Hippocratic Oath is what all doctors take this oath before, in the beginning of their careers. So it's just an oath of ethics that's historically been taken by physicians. So do you want me to read it or do you not want me to?
Just give us the gist of
Okay.
what.
All right. Because I could read it, but it was originally written in Greek, and it's a whole. Basically, the biggest principles are medical confidentiality and non-maleficence. So non-maleficence being like do no harm. Fun fact: that first "do no harm" is not actually anywhere in the Hippocratic Oath, but that's what we all say. I think it's just a simplification of what it says.
Go ahead and read,
So
some of
as
the
far as
latter.
the do no harm part, he does say that in there. It's just not in those actual words. So I'll just go ahead and read it real quick.
Go ahead.
Now, granted, remember this was written in Greek or in Greece between the 5th and 3rd century BC. So this was
It's old.
It's
Long
old.
time
This is the
ago.
original translation, the Hippocratic Oath in ancient Greek. I do believe when they take this oath, they omit all the gods and goddesses that are mentioned in this.
I'm sure.
So it's a little bit more secularized.
Mm-hmm.
They take a more modern version of this, but the original says, "I swear by Apollo healer, by Asclepius, by Hygeia, and by Panacea, and by all the gods and goddesses, making them my witnesses, that I will carry out, according to my ability and judgment, this oath and this indenture. To hold my teacher in this art equal to my own parents, to make him partner in my livelihood, when he is in need of money to share mine with him, to consider his family as my own brothers, and to teach them this art, if they want to learn it, without fee or indenture. To impart precept, oral instruction, and all other instruction to my own sons, the sons of my teacher, and to indentured pupils who have taken the healer's oath, but to nobody else. I will use those dietary regimens which will benefit my patients according to my greatest ability and judgment, and I will do no harm or injustice to them. Neither will I administer a poison to anybody when asked to do so, nor will I suggest such a course. Similarly, I will not give to a woman a pessary to cause abortion. But I will keep pure and holy both my life and my art. I will not use the knife, not even verily on sufferers from stone, but I will give place to such as are craftsmen therein. Into whatsoever houses I will enter to help the sick, and I will abstain from all intentional wrongdoing and harm, especially from abusing the bodies of man or woman, bond or free. And whatsoever I shall see or hear in the course of my profession, as well as outside my profession in my intercourse with men, if it be what should not be published abroad, I will never divulge, holding such things to be holy secrets. Now, if I carry out this oath and break it not, may I gain forever reputation among all men for my life and for my art. But if I break it and forswear myself, may the opposite befall me. That's the original.
That's very long.
Hippocratic oath.
No, but it's really
that last part is basically confidentiality, that no matter what they see or hear, that they will not talk to anybody else about it.
Well, I understand that one, yeah. But
And then
a lot
there
of
are
this
certain
stuff,
parts, like he said, he'll never pick up a knife. So that's surgery.
no harm. I know.
So that's surgery,
Not
abortion, and euthanization. Because he said he'll never knowingly give poison to a man. So it's just interesting that, the original Hippocratic oath.
Or no fee for those who want to
I
learn the
heard
art.
That sounds like
stuck out to
medical
me.
school. Come
Yeah.
on, medical schools. What are we doing? So, like I said, it was just a code of medical ethics, moral ethics. So early medicine emphasized, as you can hear in that oath, observation, looking at the whole picture and not just one thing. Diet was big. Environment and balance. So those are all things that we're going to go more into as we talk about like Eastern medicine and alternative forms of healing. Those are all things that we want to incorporate. Really, the first thing they should ask is, what's your diet look like when you're going to a doctor? No matter what you're going in there for, I feel like that should be the first thing you check off the list.
Yes.
Because I feel like a lot of times it's probably something to do with diet. And
98%, I bet. Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be something that gets asked until at least maybe later on. So, that's one of the big things that early medicine emphasized. And then environment is another one. If your environment, especially nowadays with everything that's, we got going on in the air and the food and the soil and all that stuff. So, and then just balance with everything. You can't be alkaline all the time. You can't be acidic all the time. You kind of, there's a balance there.
Totally.
Like a pH balance.
And a balance in the mind, body, and spirit.
And a balance in balance in
too.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just coming at it from a physiological standpoint, but yes, mind, body, spirit. Because if one's off, you're going to have some issues somewhere.
That leads us to I'm going to differentiate between Western or allopathic and holistic medicine. Is that okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Western or conventional allopathic focuses on treating specific symptoms, diseases, and emergencies using evidence-based pharmaceuticals, surgery, and technology. Holistic medicine aims to treat the whole person, body, mind, and spirit by addressing root causes through lifestyle, nutrition, and natural therapies, which AKA alternative therapies. So we can go into Western medicine kind of excels in acute care, and holistic focuses on long-term wellness and prevention. And as we'll continue to mention, we're not saying this versus that. We're saying, let's combine them. And sometimes, if you're really focused on long-term wellness and prevention, you're not going to need that prescription, because you're going to find out I wouldn't have needed the prescription of steroids, because I was finding out where that was coming from. So Zach, give us some rundown of Western medicine, where that excels. And
we'll just do a quick rundown. otherwise known as allopathic medicine. The big thing with Western medicine is it is pretty reductionist, and systematic. So they break the body into parts. That's why you have all those different specialists. You have specialists of every kind and of different disease, different body parts, different, that's a big part, is that they've broken the body down into parts as opposed to really as a whole. And they are symptom and disease code focused. So they focus a lot more on the symptoms, which I do realize symptoms can help with the diagnosis sometimes.
True.
Not all the time. It can be a help, though. So symptoms-based, disease code focused. So they try to narrow it down to a disease of some sort or a specific type of infection or whatever it is. So a few of the strengths of the Western medicine or allopathic medicine model would be trauma care. So Western medicine very much excels in like quick things, quick care, or as quick as possible in comparison to Eastern medicine. So trauma care, infections, and being able to identify infections quickly and be able to properly treat them. Yes, proper diagnosis, proper treatment. Surgery is a huge thing within Western medicine that is obviously a very, very good thing in many instances. And imaging. Obviously, that's a little bit of a more modern technological type thing. So imaging, being able to see, through CT scans or X-rays or MRIs or all these different kinds of technology, like pretty amazing when you think about it. So there are many, many pros to the Western system, and many that we're not even listing. We're just kind of going down a rundown. So those are just kind of the emergency, the quickness, the let's treat the symptom, let's use the symptom to try and diagnose. Like that's kind of the big idea. But the problem with that is that if you're just treating the symptom, you're probably going to keep having the same problem over and over again, or it's going to lead to other problems because you're just treating the symptom or the side effect. You're not treating like what the root cause is which is what we'll go into. But
so some of the blind spots.
Yeah, some of the blind spots going into that would be a lack of focus on nutrition, which I'm going to give you a little tidbit on that real quick in just a second. But nutrition, sleep, stress, toxic load, and that can be environmental, that can be anything about your environment, your exterior environment, but also like what your diet, all that leads back into that.
What you're slathering on your skin and your lotions.
All the chemicals in our body, body care, lotions and shampoos and blah 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 blah.
Makeup and
everything. And then the food that we eat, and then the things in the the different stuff in the air and chemicals and stuff in the water and chemicals. So toxic load, emotional trauma, and long-term prevention. Those are the big blind spots. And I think, well, they're all important, but I think some of the most important ones were the first ones that I named: nutrition. Sleep, and stress.
Well, and Hippocrates said, what did Hippocrates say?
Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
Yep.
So nutrition, again, comes back to the diet thing. Hey man, what's your diet looking like? And if they tell you, oh, well, I drink this much, whatever, soda, Mountain Dew every day or something with a bunch of sugar, which soda does, and other foods that just aren't good for you.
Yeah, like
donuts,
eat a lot
of sugar, or
processed
or
food,
processed stuff, all that stuff,
yes.
And that's just what you're eating. I mean, I bet you you could probably be like, all right, dude, here's my first suggestion. Maybe stop that, or just highly reduce that.
Some of it, yeah.
And let's start there before I just put you on something. I don't know, but.
Well, and I mean, not just that, but we're talking about things like high cholesterol, diabetes. A lot of these things can be
reversed,
maintained or
Some of them can be
reversed
reversed.
by
Yes.
or like controlled by diet.
Are you ready for a little magic in your day? At High Level Design Salon and Barbershop, they turn the mundane into magic. Whether you desire a custom color or highly detailed fade, Zach and Jessica can help you foster your sense of self. For booking inquiries, simply visit www.highlevel444.com. Their reviews speak for themselves. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. Cheers!
I actually have a real quick story about a client, speaking of just the symptoms versus the root. Just an elderly client who was suffering from constant UTIs, and they put her on a long-term course of antibiotics, which, if you know anything about antibiotics, it's not the best thing in the world to be on them long-term.
Mm-mm.
And I asked her while she was in my chair, I'm like, hey, like, do they know why you keep getting these? She's like, no, I just keep getting them. And I mentioned, dehydration, and she went back and spoke about that. She's a lover of diet soda and not a lover of water. And I always get on her when she's in my chair and processing. And I'm like, here's your water to go along with your diet soda. And so she came to me not long later and told me that she was indeed dehydrated. And there is information that, especially in people over 65, dehydration is a leading cause of UTIs because it reduces your urine volume, allowing bacteria to grow and irritating the bladder lining. So it's research out there, studies. I'm not a doctor, although I will say several years ago, I did take a natural health consultant course through the Stratford Career Institute because I was very, very driven by natural health, and I did not want to be on, I didn't want me or my family to be on a lot of medications, and I wanted to treat things as naturally as possible. So I took the course, and maybe to be able to help people in the way that I knew enough to know where to send them, that I wasn't the expert, but that I could send them to these different, places, or functional medicine doctors or what have you. So, okay. So
Hold on. I just wanted to add to one of the blind spots that I talked about, the big one, nutrition, that we've just been talking about. So I've asked multiple doctors this, clients of mine, or even just like RNs, nurses. I've gotten the same basic answer from all of them. I can't remember, Jessica, I can't remember if she has or not. Do you have any doctors or any nurses or something that I feel like maybe you asked a nurse or something.
Oh my gosh, I have tons of nurse clients.
Okay. Well, I've asked a few of mine. They've all given me the same basic answer. And this is all things you can literally Google this, as far as how long medical students of all kinds, even just standard family doctor, physician, the amount of time that they spend on nutrition education in school. Do you guys know what it is? It's pretty...
I have no clue.
To me, it seems harrowing. I'm like, dude, what?
I have no clue.
So medical students in the U.S. receive an average of only 19 to 21 hours of nutrition education across their entire 4-year training. So that's
my goodness.
19. And the average, that's just the average. Most of it's less than that. There are the recommendations are, and the recommendation is 25 to 44 hours. I still don't think that's a whole lot.
Over 4 years?
But
over a 4-year time period. If you're just going for their undergrad, obviously they have to go to graduate school and get all the rest of their doctorate and all that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to add that in there, that they really do not, unless you're going to school to be a nutritionist,
then
you're not learning anything.
That, yeah.
Then it sounds like a few days worth of, okay, we're going to go through nutrition today, and it's like a chapter in one of their books, and then they just don't, so the majority of education seems to focus on biochemistry rather than practical food related, diet related decision making or counseling. So it's
preventative,
right? And then they get more preventative, right? Yeah. Exactly.
So
and
it's like calling a fire department that's amazing at putting out flames, but doesn't ask why the wiring keeps melting.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. And so they're taught a lot about the biochemistry, the pharmaceutical end of things. They spend a lot of time on that because they have to know all those different, pharmaceuticals and what does what. So it's just I wanted to add that in on the nutrition side of it. And that's, by the way, that's directly from like the American Medical Association's website.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you can Google what I just told you. It's just a very, very interesting and, to me, a little bit of a harrowing fact about medical students.
Yeah. Well, so on the holistic homeopathy front, Eastern medicine will fall into some of this, Ayurveda, and I'm going to go into some of that. But so Dr. Sebi, we're going to talk about him in a bit. He said we all have the ability to heal ourselves, but we must give the body the right conditions. And Dr. Joe Dispenza also says the intelligence that created the body can heal the body. But again, that is not just one aspect. It's the whole package of the person, the mind, body, and spirit. And Zach, you brought up biochemistry. The other thing with that is all of our biochemistry is different. We are not all, in the sense of biologically, we are not all created equally. We all have if you go by your blood type, there's an eat for your blood type diet, and type A's, they really shouldn't eat meat. And then you've got others that thrive on eating a little bit more meat. And, one thing, I believe cheese is actually really not great for blood type A, and I'm blood type A. So that was dang, but dairy also causes inflammation.
It does.
It's so we are all different, and medicine cannot actually be one size fits all.
No.
So some of these other practices go into a more individualized approach for the specific person.
A balance for that.
Yes. And Western medicine asks, what disease do you have? Holistic medicine says, why did your body become vulnerable? And just like the UTI example, you have this, but why did it become vulnerable to this? Well, dehydration. So if you were looking at a more full picture, you would be able to stop that before you take a unnecessary long-term round of a medication that maybe your body doesn't need, which then makes you more vulnerable, opens you up to more things setting in. So, okay, as we said, aims to treat the whole person. Ayurveda is an ancient Indian system, thousands of years old, that focuses on individual constitution. There's 4 different doshas, as they call them. Someday soon, maybe we can have an entire episode on Ayurveda because it's so very interesting, and I've got somebody that could speak on that.
That would be great.
Practitioner,
That'd be great.
And digestion, is central to health. That's one of the primary points. Daily rhythms, your sleep, your eating, how much sunlight are you getting? And then mind, body, spirit unity. Things like meditation, yoga, which balances a number of systems in the body, biofeedback. So disease is seen as an imbalance in the system, not an invasion. The dis-ease in the body is something that is, okay, there's something out of balance. What can we do to bring it back into balance? Not just treat it. And sometimes you need a medication to treat that imbalance, but other times you can go with a more natural approach that will You've got something going on in your kidney and you're just looking at the kidney, but there was something going on over here that caused the kidney to act up. And if you kind of follow the trail, you might be able to break down, like, as we keep saying, the root cause. So other alternative therapies we've got that are categorized as alternative, but now actually, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health recognize and science backs some of these so to add them in integratively. Acupuncture with, thin needles that hit certain meridians in your body that help unblock pathways.
Mhm.
Homeopathy, which is based on the law of similars, using highly diluted substances to trigger the body's natural healing. For just an example of that, if you deal with anxiety, if you have too much caffeine, that is going to increase your anxiety, the nervous system, all manner of things. It's going to sound the alarms. But if you introduce, in homeopathy, you introduce a tiny bit of caffeine, it will do the opposite and calm it. And so if you introduce just a tiny bit of a particular stimulant, herb, poison even, like it will do the healing. It stimulates the body to heal.
The difference between medicine and poison is in the dose.
You know what?
Mm.
That's a true statement. Yes.
Then we've got your naturopathy, which emphasizes natural agents and herbs to help the body heal itself. Then chiropractic is considered alternative medicine. And that is like, they believe that the spine has everything to do with balance of the body. And it makes a whole lot of sense when you dig in. Magnet therapy is another. And
infrared.
And these are all like, you're seeing infrared and red light therapy coming out, like, massive. Like, even I noticed that even Suntan City now has wellness
tanning beds,
wellness beds that are red light therapy. Simply only red light therapy.
I want to go.
So it's very much, and that is beneficial for the skin. It's beneficial for moods. It's been like several benefits. Traditional Chinese medicine. These are ancient practices, and mind, body, just the whole gamut of everything that feeds the mind, the body, and the spirit, because we are a being. We are the whole package. We are not just one facet. And, you mentioned earlier, one of the blind spots of allopathic medicine is emotional trauma. And a lot of our dis-ease in the body, spiritual and emotional things that have not been dealt with or processed, stays in the body, and the physical happens because it is demanding to be noticed. And a lot of times it's not addressed. To go deeper, and that deeper layer, you're just addressing the physical symptoms when there's something much deeper below the surface. That is why now these physical symptoms have manifested to make you take notice. So if you are dealing with some chronic illness or you have pain in the body, it could be something deeper beyond, some unprocessed trauma or unprocessed grief or, a myriad of things. And that's where, a therapist comes in, taking care of that mind and to then just care for the whole package. And so we brought up Dr. Sebi, and he was a Honduran herbalist. He was a big promoter of an alkaline diet because a lot of people are unbalanced, and it brought a lot more notice to the alkalinity and balancing out the acidity. And he had a lot of famous clients, Michael Jackson being one, Lisa Left Eye Lopez being one, John Travolta. So he started getting a little bit of
notoriety.
Yes, notoriety. Thank you.
Kobe Bryant.
Oh, that's right.
Really?
Kobe,
Nipsey
Nipsey
Hussle.
Hussle, okay, so you bringing those up, let's talk about the fact Zach has the details for you on all of these people that were actually being healed and were very impressed and believers of Dr. Sebi's practices. And they all happened to,
Not all of them, but a lot of them.
The
Well,
ones,
the ones
that
Lisa-
wanted to get it, the ones
Yeah.
that wanted to
who
get
were
the
trying
word
to
out.
get the word
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
Lisa was doing interviews talking about what she was doing. Nipsey was about to do a documentary on Dr. Sebi when he was offed. And then R.I.P. Nipsey.
Did you just say oft?
I'm sorry. Oops. And then the last one that I just mentioned,
Kobe.
or that you mentioned, yeah, Kobe. Okay, well, we talked about that on the last episode. So
Mhm.
go ahead and go into a brief explanation of.
So Dr. Sebi, to just finish what she was saying, he gained notoriety amongst a lot of famous people, and he helped all of those people. But a lot of them are no longer with us. And, kind of an odd thing. Michael, obviously. Now, I don't think his his death was necessarily just because of, but that was one thing, because he's the most popular dude on the planet, and people started noticing and hearing about this doctor that Michael was seeing that was helping him in various different ways, especially with Michael's, the amount of stress he had.
And he also brought, I believe, his son to Dr. Sebi.
Yes. And I can't remember what it was. He made him, because he's a naturalist, he's an herbalist, so he uses all natural remedies.
Let him inhale something.
He made him inhale something. It was ground up. It was some sort of herb. I can't remember what it is right off the bat. That's my fault. But he made him, he had a tumor, I believe. Like somewhere up in either in his nose or like in his sinus or something like that. And he made him sniff, like basically snort like this ground up herb a certain amount of times, and he said it was extremely uncomfortable, and it, but then after a little while, like he literally had parts of this tumor,
like sneezed it out.
He sneezed it out. One of the last times that he sneezed. That's right.
Wow.
He sneezed it out. And so that's one little story with Michael Jackson, but John Travolta went to him for some stuff. Lisa Lopez from TLC she was one of his biggest supporters, and she started doing interviews talking about what she was doing, specific like sea moss and stuff like that. And then she happened to die in Honduras, the same city where he was from, and where he also ended up dying he died in 2016, I think. So just interesting that she died while she was in Honduras, which is where Dr. Sebi was from.
Was she going to go see him or something, or what?
I wouldn't. He might not. It's possible. I don't know the specifics, so I'm not going to claim that I do. But I just think it's odd that she happened to die there.
All of those are odd.
And then Kobe had utilized Dr. Sebi, and same with Nipsey. Nipsey was going to self-fund a documentary about him. He was going to pay for it out of his own pocket. And then they offed him. Also, Nipsey was a man of the people. He was very much a real dude, what we would call a real king. He was doing a lot of good in his home, the Compton area and everything. He bought a bunch of commercial properties and, turned and basically created jobs within his community, brought a boys and girls club to there, all that kind of stuff. So he was making real changes.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground change. He was actually putting his money where his mouth was. And he was one of those figures where like the Bloods and the Crips respected him.
Right.
He was associated with one of those gangs in his younger years, but they all respected him. He didn't. So that's why the whole story of it being gang related, him being killed, because you can see the footage, the CCTV footage from the parking lot. It was in the parking lot of his own clothing store, Marathon Clothing. And he was just gunned down in his parking lot. and they blamed it on like rival gang. But if you look into Nipsey, he didn't have rival gangs. Everybody accepted him, kind of like Michael Jackson when he went to Brazil to do the They Don't Care About Us video, and they told him not to go because of the gangs and all that stuff, and they allowed him to, and the gangs all basically stopped their operations for a couple of days because Michael was
Jackson
there.
brought people together.
Yes.
He brought everybody. So the same thing. Anyways, so those long list of clients of Dr. Sebi's that have proven, that he really helped them. So I'll just make it quick. He was an herbalist and naturalist. Everything he did was all diet-based, herbs, natural things, plant medicine, all that kind of stuff. He said that he could cure all disease, and he actually put out advertisements in the local newspapers because he's from Honduras, but he lived in New Orleans for a little bit, and then he opened clinics in New York and LA, I believe. So he had put out, when he first started curing people, he put out these ads basically saying that he could cure, HIV and cancer and all these various all the major things. And he's got a long list of people that have been cured by his regiments. So he said he could cure all disease. Government got mad and sued him for those claims. So he was asked to bring only 7 people that he had cured. Otherwise, they were going to arrest him. They said, we need proof. You need to bring it. 7 people. He showed up the next day with 77 people that he cured and beat the case.
Hallelujah.
That's all public court documents that you can find if you look for Dr. Sebi. I don't know if it was what the case was called, but you can find that. That's all public court documents that you can find. He beat that case. So because he had the proof was in the pudding. And, so he was dangerous to the Western medicine.
There you go.
Industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the big pharma, is the buzzword nowadays, big pharma.
Big pharma.
He was, people like him were a threat to their pocketbooks. It always comes down to money. It always comes down to money.
Follow the money trail.
Yeah.
Kevin Trudeau said that. He was a Canadian, and he has spent many years in jail because the cures of cancer, they don't want you to know.
Yeah, which is why Rick Strassman lives in the Cayman Islands. Or not Rick Strassman, Rick Simpson.
Oh,
Rick Simpson lives in the Cayman Islands, I believe.
I don't blame him.
So that because if he lived here, even Canada, he'd be in prison. So they can't get him in Cayman Islands. So
let's go to the Cayman Islands.
That was my thought too.
Offshore bank accounts, come on, man.
So functional medicine or integrative, functional is kind of marrying the two. And it's systems, biology-based, patient-centered approach that focuses on identifying and addressing the root cause of disease rather than just treating the symptoms. It views the bodies as an interconnected system, aiming to restore balance and overall function. And that often is through holistic treatment plans. But functional medicine has the capability to prescribe you something further if you did need a prescription medication, or they can do blood work. They can see, like, let's run a whole full panel instead of just checking one thing. Let's check your hormones. Let's check your cholesterol. Let's check all the things. And JJ, when you shifted your focus from just fighting cancer to supporting your body, what are the changes that you saw? We already talked about that your tumor actually started shrinking, which was priority numero uno. But what else did you notice?
I had more energy. I noticed I was having a more spiritual contact with the maker. I noticed I was just more focused. I was noticing people giving me compliments, how good I look, despite what everybody knows I'm going through. Just the whole body, mind, and soul thing. Body, mind, and soul change. Everything has changed. Like I said before, I feel better and more energetic and more young than I have in a decade. And I still have that inside me, which I'm not claiming. So
That's amazing to feel better than you have in 10 years. And I hear a lot of people, a lot of clients talk about, just feeling off and, not feeling better than they have in 10 years and feeling, worse. And so, it's hard. A lot of people would like to go into these practices, like, check out alternative therapies. And because they are becoming more and more well known and they are becoming more mainstream, more insurance companies are starting to look. But like you said, insurance didn't cover it. It was expensive. Insurance covered, the state took care of all of your chemotherapy protocols.
Allopathic, yep.
But then when it came to alternative therapies, like that
Different
was
story.
on you. And I remember we did a GoFundMe so
did.
that you could raise funds to pay for some of these treatments.
Yep.
And, she wasn't just going to stand by, and she was going to work for it. And then she believed in blessings, and blessings showed up financially and in a myriad of ways. And
synchronicities of all kinds of sorts and spiritual blessings, everything. Yes.
So, okay, why doesn't insurance cover some of these? Insurance, let's talk about what they do cover. They cover procedures, prescriptions, diagnoses with billing codes. They do not reimburse time, prevention, nutrition, or lifestyle changes. Functional medicine, part of the reason they're longer appointments. So whereas, I've been told by doctors themselves that yes, we are restricted really actually to like 15 minutes.
They are, that's true.
With a patient.
They are.
And sometimes they'll go over, but as a rule, it's supposed to be 15 minutes. And with a functional medicine doctor, they will spend a little bit longer to dig a little further, or you filled out a long questionnaire before you came in and they'll walk through that with you. It's more individualized care instead of the one size fits all model. But that is hard to standardize, which can lead to other, issues. And it's hard to patent. So if you're pushing natural health and herbs that you can grow on your own, or herbs that you can get that, that can't be patented, and then that leads to less dollars in the pockets. And so insurance pays for what's repeatable and billable, but not necessarily what's transformative. And I truly believe, like, one of my goals is that someday to be able to have a clinic funded for alternative therapies, that there's enough money to pay different practitioners so that people can come and maybe a sliding scale and they can pay what they can. Because I do believe that there should be an energy exchange. You're getting this from a practitioner. And if you invest something into it, you are more invested in it. And so I think that more of that kind of thing will continue to pop up as people become more aware that these practices have been going on for thousands of years before we got away from Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, which are thousands of years old. And Zach can tell us, he can go in on the modern medical model and who is responsible for that.
Yes. So this all comes down to money, as per usual. And we're going to quickly just bring up John D. Rockefeller Foundation, Andrew Carnegie Foundation. So those are two of the big boys involved in this. So they created multiple different organizations that still exist today, like medical boards and medical organizations. Rockefeller also, in like 1902, created the General Education Board. So he took control of pretty much our entire educational system in general, not just medical schools, but the way things are done in medical schools, the way that we do things,
What is taught.
what's taught,
And just
protocols.
a brief interjection right there. I would like to say something that popped in my mind, that with that, we're not saying that doctors aren't doing their job or that they don't actually care and that the doctors are all about the money. They are doing the best of their ability for what they've been taught and what they went to school for, which was then, if you follow the trail up, kind of became controlled by one person. Continue.
Yes. So what they did, Rockefeller and Carnegie, they funded medical schools that complied with the Flexner model, which I'll briefly just say the Flexner model, or the Flexner report, the Flexner report. They hired a man named Abraham Flexner. He was commissioned to evaluate the medical schools in the U.S. and Canada. At the time, there was over 150 different medical schools in the country. Many were for-profit diploma mills, so they did want to get rid of some of those where they were just people paying money just so they could get a diploma, and they were just handing them out. So there wasn't as much standardization, some inconsistent training, obviously some outright fraud as well. So they sent Abraham Flexner around to evaluate all these medical schools, and he advocated for laboratory-based science, anatomy, pathology, bacteriology, hospital-centered training, and a European research model. So that's what he was looking for, and because of all of that, those schools, a bunch of them got shut down because the medical system needed reform, and industrial funding shaped what science meant. So that's where the money started coming into play, is that they wanted things that they could standardize, they wanted things that they could patent, they wanted protocols that they can predict. They wanted predictability within the industry, all of that stuff. So anyways, so Flexner went around, did all of that. They ended up closing a bunch of schools, and they funded the ones that complied with the Flexner model. So they defunded any schools that wouldn't go along with what they were saying. And
So a lot of those that had herbal and traditional practices.
yes, so that's the next part that I was going to go into with that, is the fact that they got rid of all the different herbal, homeopathy, all the schools. After the report came out, over half of all the U.S. medical schools closed. That's what I was getting at.
Damn.
All the schools that taught homeopathy, naturopathy, herbalism, electrotherapy, and holistic approaches were eliminated immediately. Black colleges and women's medical colleges were disproportionately shut down. I mean, you think of the era, sounds about right for that time period, unfortunately.
You mean on the medical front?
Yeah.
Okay.
Black medical colleges and women's medical colleges were disproportionately shut down as well. And so all of medical education became centralized, standardized, and expensive after this happened. It shifted from a pluralistic ecosystem to one single authorized framework. So that's basically the long and short of what Rockefeller did concerning the medical industry. Is they industrialized it. They took over and got rid of all of what we're calling Eastern medicine, holistic medicine, natural remedies. Got rid of it all because you can't really patent nature, and they can't make money off of that the same way, the plenty of other examples of things that they can't make money off of, like Tesla and electricity and all that stuff. You can't make money off of free energy. You know what I mean? But anyways.
So we're not saying it was a secret plot.
No.
It was just.
It was money.
It was money.
It was
industrial logic applied to healing.
Right.
Instead of healing being the first and foremost priority. And a little fun fact, actually, women that practiced herbal medicine that were healers
Oh,
back in the day. Those were the ones called witches.
witches.
Yep.
Yep.
So, I don't know, just something that came to my mind a few times that I
So
wanted to
it
mention.
became kind of the modern day allopathic medical system, which is kind of a pill for every ill,
right.
is what it seems to be. And treating this, it truly is the simplest way to define it is it's treating the symptoms and not the cause. And that has, negative effects when you do that, because you might start to feel better, but then like, what about, most likely whatever was happening was because it was your body's way of trying to get rid of something. And then you just suppressed your body's natural intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Like a fever.
Like a fever, when you take fever reducer, ibuprofen or whichever one it is that does that, you might start to, your fever is going to go down. You might not have any more pain, but like you just suppressed your body's way of getting whatever that was out. And so then you just, a lifetime of doing that. And next thing you know, you've got, whatever disease, because now you've just stuffed all that stuff and it never got out of your body. So, it went more the pharmaceutical route. And then a big part of that too was right around the time with oil and everything, they started making most all of our pharmaceuticals are made with petrochemicals. So
Ew.
Rockefeller controlled a lot of the oil industry as well. So this gets into that.
Oh Lord.
But
I know.
but I'm just saying that's where the money, and so they're like, dude, we can make a bunch of money off these pharmaceuticals, these pills, and because oil, so we're going to make money on the oil front, but also the medical front. And that's when they, pharmaceutical industry really started booming. And just quick little side note about pharmaceuticals. The word pharmakeia is the Greek. That's where we get the word pharmacy or pharmaceutical from, is the Greek word pharmakeia. That word is translated as sorcery or witchcraft, but sorcery, it refers to the use of drugs, potions, or spells to deceive, manipulate, or harm. And that is the root word for where we get pharmacy or pharmaceutical.
No wonder why I don't like pharmacies.
Well,
Yeah.
and as a lot of things have changed, the meanings have changed,
Oh.
but it does make you wonder why that it became that in the first place. But
Yes,
Jeez.
very, very interesting nonetheless. And, I will say, can I quote a Bible verse? I know we're not
Please.
talking about
Please
the Bible,
do.
but
Oh, hey.
to go along with the pharmakeia, this is how I found out that the word pharmakeia, the Greek, word, what it was. So in Revelation 18:23 says, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, and for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." The reason I bring that up
Ooh, interesting.
is because sorceries in the Greek translation is pharmakeia. So in the Greek translation, the original Greek of
the
this,
Bible.
of this Bible verse,
Right.
it said pharmakeia, sorceries. So just fun facts,
God,
fun
that
little
makes
things
so
that make you go,
sense.
Things
Yeah.
that make you go.
sorceries, with the pharmaceuticals and all that. But again, it does come back to money, which is typically what it comes back to. And the fact that they were going to make money on multiple fronts off of this oil and all that stuff. So to kind of lead into and to supplement what we've been talking about, I also just very briefly want to just say the difference between terrain theory and germ theory. So terrain theory and germ theory, the simplest way to think about it is if you think about two fish bowls and one of them, and they each have a fish in them, and one of them is dirty. It's just dirty. It hasn't been cleaned out or anything like that. And the other one is clean. It's been regularly cleaned. There's no floaties or anything in there. What would you think to do? Do you think you should give that the fish in the dirty bowl, should you just give it a bunch of medication or something like that? Or should you just clean the bowl? You get what I'm saying? So do you medicate the fish or do you just clean the tank? So
when you put it that way, it's a no-brainer. But
right. So germ theory, that's Louis Pasteur. We all know his name, the process of pasteurization with milk and all that stuff, which does help, but also does destroy the milk, by the way.
I was getting ready to say that. Yeah.
It basically, think of it as bleaching the milk almost.
Right.
Not actual bleach, but think of it in your head as it just
Cleaning.
It cleans it. Yes, there's not going to be any, but it gets rid of all the good stuff. That's why you see all these milks say they're fortified with calcium and they have to add all that stuff back in there.
Yeah.
It's because they took it all out with pasteurization. Raw milk is a superfood.
Best.
By the way.
The best.
It is, and it tastes better too. Anywho.
Now you're going to get us flagged.
Sorry. Louis Pasteur was the one who argued that specific microbes cause specific diseases, that it was germs. Germs, it's external things that get you sick. So he, wasn't completely wrong, because there are certain things with infection and getting into your body, external things getting into your body, whether it be bacteria or whatever, things like that, which that's a big part of why there was a lot of disease. People say, oh, well, what about like modern medicine? Yes, modern medicine has helped a lot of things, but a big thing that helped with people, used to die at 30, 40 years old.
Earlier.
Babies died all the time. Go to any old cemetery, you're going to see a lot of children in those cemeteries.
Yeah.
And it was because of the lack of sanitization. They didn't have the same plumbing systems that we have today. They didn't have the same protocol for waste disposal and all that stuff. So there was trash a lot of times in places where that shouldn't be, and
rotting meat,
fecal matter, and just because they didn't have city plumbing systems,
or they
where
didn't
people
have
were
refrigeration,
all that kind of stuff. So that is a big part of a lot of that.
Right.
So I'm not saying that germ theory isn't correct. There are certain correct things about that, but that's basically what he argued, that microbes were the thing that caused all disease, whereas Antoine Béchamp is who promulgated terrain theory. So his idea was that the internal environment of the body determines whether disease appears. So to go along with your diet and nutrition, and that most disease starts because of an issue internally and not necessarily because you caught something.
No, right.
So that, if your soil is toxic, things are going to rot. But if your soil is healthy, life happens.
Mm-hmm.
Life organizes itself. So the immune system strength matters more than just exposure alone. Nutrition, gut health, stress, sleep, toxins, inflammation, all that stuff that we've already brought up radically affect disease outcomes.
Yes.
So
yes.
Chronic illness, this also showed that chronic illness correlates strongly with metabolic dysfunction and not just pathogens. So internal things. So I just wanted to explain the difference between that and just further backing what we're talking about as far as, external things like your diet, your environment, stress, things like that. And I'll end it on saying this, that Pasteur, like right before he died, kind of switched his whole thing. And he is famous for saying that the terrain is everything and the germ is nothing. He said that at the end of his life. So he kind of went back. He started going along with terrain theory. And he said the terrain is everything, the germ is nothing. So interesting. Germs do matter, but is what I'm saying. And it's the same thing that we're talking about with Western versus Eastern. Germs do matter. I'm not saying germs don't exist or anything like that, but terrain matters more in this instance. So if your terrain internally is better and in a good state, you're much less likely to catch something or to have a germ or bacteria affect you like that. So that's kind of what I wanted to get at with that, to add on to what we're saying.
So one thing that's not pharmaceutical, but that both branches of science agree on, and that shouldn't be controversial, is vitamin D. And I'd like to go a little bit into that. We are going to be referencing a book that we have called The Vitamin D Cure. And the whole title I'm going to read is 5 Steps to Heal Your Pain and Improve Your Mood, Prevent Diabetes, Heart Disease, Cancer, Arthritis, and More Use the sun, the right supplements, and diet to change your life. That's on the front cover. And that is Dr. James Dowd and Diane Stafford are the authors of this book. And we will link that on our resources page that we're working on, so you can find where to purchase that if you're curious. And so vitamin D, we all have heard of vitamin D deficiencies. We know that we get our vitamin D from the sun. And so especially in the Midwest, actually the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition says vitamin D deficiency is now recognized as a pandemic. And that was on sciencedirect.com. So I think that's pretty interesting that they use such a strong term, pandemic, that we're all suffering from a deficiency. Why is that such a thing? Well, vitamin D deficiency is it's like a quiet saboteur. It doesn't usually like announce itself loudly. It just starts pulling strings behind the curtain, and it functions more like a hormone than a simple vitamin. It's not like just taking vitamin C, which we've also talked about the power of vitamin C, but
Yes, we did.
its deficiency can ripple through multiple body systems at once, which is why it shows up so often in chronic mystery illnesses. Vitamin D does many things. It's immensely important for bones and dental health, growth and development. It's important for immune system defense, mitochondria, energy production, genetics, and the list goes on. Every cell in your body uses vitamin D. Hippocrates said, natural forces within us are the true healers of disease. So it stands to reason that one of those natural forces could be a very large proponent in some of our healing. And some of the core ideas in Dr. Dowd's book, The Vitamin D Cure, says that vitamin D functions more like a hormone than a vitamin. It influences over 2,000 genes. It influences immune cell signaling, inflammation regulation. Many people, especially cancer patients, are severely deficient. Modern life, like indoor, because we live indoors, we use sunscreen, where we live, like latitude-wise, they say it virtually guarantees deficiency. Standard normal blood ranges are clinically insufficient. So another thing that they talk about is that the adequate vitamin D helps immune cells distinguish between healthy cells and abnormal ones. Its deficiency is associated with increased risk of autoimmune disease, cancer progression, and chronic inflammation. And the authors argue that deficiency isn't rare, it's the norm. So a lot of us are walking around, and I just want to say before I forget, you might say, oh, I'm taking a vitamin D supplement. Well, make sure it's vitamin D plus K2, because vitamin D will not just orally absorb. If you take it orally, it's not going to absorb. You need K2 to help that absorb into your body. So make sure you're taking both of those.
Bioavailability of vitamin D in supplement form is not nearly as good as other forms.
Mm-hmm. So, like a lot of times people are like, well, it's my genetics. I just have really bad genes, when they're actually chronically deficient, and it could be in a myriad of nutrients. But we're going to hone in on vitamin D. And Dr. Joe Dispenza says genes are not destiny. They are instructions, and we can change the instructions. So that's a hopeful statement, and I really love that from him. And if you've listened to any of the other shows, you know how much I love Dr. Joey D.
So do I.
So I am going to just briefly run through what you can find in this book and the systems of the body. And a lot of this also came from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And so the immune system, this is ground zero. Vitamin D plays a key role in immune regulation, meaning it helps the immune system know when to attack and when to stand down. Deficiency in the immune system is associated with frequent infections. You get colds, flu, respiratory illness, poor immune response, increased inflammation, autoimmune activity, which is your immune system attacking the body. The common chronic illnesses linked with the immune system and vitamin D deficiency, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and
Get them out there.
I didn't do my lip exercises before we started, so
How now, brown cow?
You guys crack me up.
okay, lupus, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, psoriasis, and IBS, which also Crohn's and colitis. So without enough vitamin D, the immune system becomes reactive instead of intelligent. And it doesn't have the building blocks it needs to help heal the body. Were you going to say something?
It becomes reactive as opposed to proactive.
Mm-hmm. So the musculoskeletal system is another. It's an obvious one because what vitamin D provides, but it is misunderstood. Vitamin D is essential for calcium absorption and muscle function. A deficiency can cause chronic muscle aches, bone pain, weakness, increased fracture risk, poor physical recovery, chronic conditions associated, osteoporosis, osteomalacia, which is like soft bones, fibromyalgia. Dr. Dowd says half of the cases of his patients labeled fibromyalgia were due to vitamin D deficiency and diet deficiencies. And I personally know some folks that suffer from fibromyalgia, and I'm actually not sure in the myriad of tests they have if they have been tested for D deficiency. Then we move on to the nervous system and brain. Vitamin D receptors are abundant in the brain and nervous system. Deficiency is linked to depression, anxiety, brain fog, cognitive decline, poor sleep regulation, and some of the chronic illnesses associated with the nervous system and brain. Seasonal affective disorder. And this is a big one that I hear clients talk about all the time. And Dr. Dowd in his book says that with the vitamin D cure, it's expected to almost eliminate seasonal affective disorder. And I mean, that's pretty amazing. So depression resistant to medication, that is another deficiency related. Neuroinflammation, increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases. So sometimes what we call a chemical imbalance is actually a signaling problem. Then we move to hormonal and the endocrine system. And this is where things get a little chaotic. And vitamin D in this instance influences insulin sensitivity, thyroid signaling, and reproductive hormones. Deficiency can contribute to insulin resistance, blood sugar dysregulation, thyroid dysfunction, and hormonal imbalance. And I will say, on the hormonal imbalance front, I had a hormone panel done because of the way I'd been feeling, and depressed and a bit of brain fog and different things like that. And my hormones were on point, which I also take a supplement that helps with natural hormone balance. And I started going to the Indiana Chelation Clinic in Noblesville, and they offer a 50,000 IU vitamin D injection. And I can feel a difference. I can feel a difference on the months that I skip, but it definitely has helped me through like the winter blues or seasonal affective disorder. And it has helped like my moods. I notice I feel a lot more down when I don't get that. And so just a little shout out and plug that those things exist, and it's like $20. And $20 a month to boost something that affects so many different systems in your body. I mean, it seems, you're probably spending that much in coffee.
Or more. Oh, no, I don't know.
So the chronic conditions that are associated with hormonal and endocrine system, vitamin D deficiency, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, PCOS, hypothyroidism, and adrenal fatigue. And that is a functional medicine term, the adrenal fatigue. And vitamin D doesn't replace your hormones. It helps them communicate. Just FYI. So cardiovascular system, it can affect inflammation of blood vessels, poor blood pressure regulation, arterial stiffness, leading to hypertension, increased cardiovascular disease risk, and higher stroke risk. Then we've got the gut and digestive system, where immunity and nutrition meet. The vitamin D supports your gut barrier integrity, microbiome balance, immune tolerance in the intestines. Deficiency is associated with leaky gut, chronic digestive inflammation, poor nutrient absorption. So you could be eating super well and you've gone completely organic and you're trying to get all that in, but then you're vitamin D deficient and all those nutrients are having a hard time being absorbed. Linked conditions are IBS, Crohn's disease, food sensitivities. And the gut is where vitamin D deficiency starts and shows up at the same time. Then found this on cancer.gov and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition also says that there is an association that exists between vitamin D deficiency and cancer mortality. Vitamin D is involved in cell differentiation, apoptosis, which is the programmed death of abnormal cells, and immune surveillance, figuring out what your system needs to be doing. And low levels of vitamin D are associated with increased cancer risk, poor cancer outcomes, and faster disease progression in some cancers. So we're not saying that vitamin D is a cure for cancer, but deficiency may remove one of the body's natural defenses against it. And then something that people I just feel off. I just don't feel right. Chronic fatigue, low motivation, general sadness, slow recovery from illness or exercise. And vitamin D deficiencies often overlooked in those instances. And then it's categorized under something else when it could have simply been you need a major boost in that supplement. So it doesn't cause one disease, a deficiency in vitamin D. It creates an environment where many diseases can thrive. And we say, Western medicine says, what disease is this? And functional medicine says, what system is undersupported? And deficiency doesn't break the body, it removes its margin of safety.
So that's a pretty extensive list of...
It's very extensive.
Which is a good thing. It's getting across the point that vitamin D is extremely important.
Essential.
Yeah. And did you bring this up earlier? Have you said yet that, didn't you just read that they said it was a pandemic?
Yeah.
She did.
Vitamin D deficiency?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That they've said it's
the
a
new
pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah, that we're all deficient. And so I think that's just a long list to just show you that it affects every major system of your body.
I'm going to make a t-shirt that says we need the D.
I like that.
Available soon in our t-shirt shop that'll be popping up soon. So vitamin D seems to be extremely important. It is extremely important.
No seems
especially
about it.
with your immune system in general. It helps to prevent. It's not going to be the cure for any one thing. It's going to be the thing that helps make sure that you
Everything.
Boost your
either
entire body.
preventative or get rid of whatever the issue is.
So if you're feeling poopy and you don't know why, go get your vitamin D levels checked.
There you go.
And then go get a vitamin D injection.
And then go sit in the sun for 15
and
minutes.
that's the other thing. Like, we do not get enough sunlight. And I know there's a lot of scary things that we've been told about the sun.
Yeah.
And it can cause certain ailments, but it is, with proper safety, kind of essential to get out and get a little of the thing that creates natural vitamin D for us. When it hits our skin, it is literally like a battery that charges our body.
The best bioavailability out of all the different ways that you can get vitamin D. Obviously, intravenously is going to be an extremely potent way of doing it. But eating the supplements, like she said, if you're going to do that, make sure you're also taking vitamin K2, because that helps with the absorption of the vitamin D into your body. So, but the sun is the best way to get it. And that's why these clinics exist, because the sun's not always available, especially during the winter.
Ain't keeping me out of the sun. Sorry. Even though I do have not skin cancer, but I do have those topical cancers, and I can go take them off. You're not going to make me stay out of the sun.
So we've talked about how, we would like to see more of both systems working together, and that, I believe, and we've talked about that the future is integrative, and that is becoming more mainstream. And Zach actually just this morning, doing a little research, found some really interesting information that pleased me regarding our what's going on in our government, and in regards to the medical industry. Go ahead and share that.
I was going to say, you're going to let him share.
So to tail off of what I said earlier, just to the way our medical system's been for a while, one big issue is, and I also will say this too, because this adds to what I'm saying right now, but a big mindset with the industry as a whole is, a cured patient is a lost customer. So, and that's why it's a bit, again, it comes back to money, that's why our medical system operates the way that it does, that it's more symptom based, where they're just going to get rid of your symptoms and then that's it. But see, the issue you come into there is that, okay, I'm going to go get rid of my symptom with maybe this pill. Oh, well, this medication has all these side effects. Okay, well, now you have to take this one to counteract those side effects. Well, then that one has, and it's just a big, and now you're paying a bunch of money to the pharmaceutical industry. So that mindset, along with the lack of nutrition education, is what we're getting at. So what I read about today has to do with nutrition. So for basically over 100 years, medical schools prohibited serious nutrition training. So there's new legislation that has come out, a new plan that is making nutrition a mandatory part of medical training. So they've tested a lot of this on the medical colleges admissions tests and embedded it across the medical schools, residencies, all of continuing education. So for the first time in a long time, physicians are going to start being taught prevention and root cause care. A lot of doctors themselves are starting to really recognize that patients are wanting root causes and more natural answers instead of just endless prescriptions and quick fixes. So there's a place called the Alice Walton School of Medicine, and health and nutrition are at the center of every one of their lessons. So there's already major schools starting and implementing this. And it's pretty cool. We just found that today when I was doing some research, and it's pretty awesome that they're actually going to be doing. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're going to defund the schools that do not teach that and put that into their curriculum. So they will defund, federal funding will stop if they don't implement this. So they're kind of they're kind of forcing their hands a little bit. They
Good.
have the choice, but they're forcing their hands a little bit in a good way. So
So this just,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
that
a step in the right
proves
direction.
that like the combination of the two, that healing doesn't belong to just one system. It belongs to the body, and the body is smart.
Mhm.
And when you give it the proper things, it can be preventative instead of just
Preventative and healing, not just
Right.
cure, not just
fix the
fighting.
problem.
Yeah, not just hiding the problem.
Yep. So that's just a cool little, that was an article I read today about just new legislation and
Timing is everything.
It
yeah,
is. It
seems to
is.
be a step in the right direction. So if there's one thing we hope you take from the conversation today, it's this: healing is not owned by any one system. Western medicine can save your life in a crisis. Holistic and functional medicine can help you rebuild a life worth living afterward. But those truths don't cancel each other out. They complete each other. What we've heard from lived experience, from history, from science, is that the body is not broken or disposable. It's adaptive. It's intelligent. And when it's supported instead of overridden, it often knows how to move back toward balance.
Mm-hmm. The problem isn't that people are asking too many questions about health. The problem is that for a long time, they were told not to ask any.
Ooh, that's good.
So whether you're dealing with illness, supporting someone you love, or just trying to understand your own body a little better, remember, you are not a collection of symptoms. You are a system, and it's the whole, the mind, body, and spirit. And healing doesn't necessarily begin with a prescription. It begins with curiosity, awareness, and the courage to listen to what your body has been trying to say all along.
So as always, today's episode brought to you by High Level Design Salon and Barbershop. You can find any and all information on how to contact us, how to get on our books, pricing, availability, all that kind of stuff through our website, www.highlevel444.com. You can also find more information for the podcast at the same website, but just click on the High Level Hairesy podcast tab. We've got all of our book recommendations. We try to put all of the books that we talk about on there and where you can find them. Got the links to all the different streaming platforms and YouTube and everything where you can listen to the show.
And today, for this episode, in the description, we'll be linking info for the Indiana Chelation Clinic in Noblesville if you're local and you want to stop by there and get that vitamin D shot to give yourself a little boost. And they will be happy to help you out. They're lovely there.
I also want to thank JJ.
Yes.
Real quick. Thank you so much
JJ.
for hanging out with us today and having a cool conversation.
And sharing your story and experience.
It was thank you. It was my pleasure.
We loved it. We loved it. It was a good time.
Yes.
So until next time, we leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. May the force be with you.
And also with you.
High Level Hairesy.